From North London teenager to soul legend destroyed by fame. Discover how Amy Winehouse's extraordinary voice and brutal honesty created timeless music, while her battles with love and addiction led to tragedy at just 27. This is the ultimate story of talent, authenticity, and the deadly price of refusing to compromise.
Narrative: Amy Winehouse, soul sister from North London in a cluttered bedroom in Southgate, North London. A teenage girl with thick black eyeliner and a voice that could break hearts sat hunched over her guitar, pouring raw emotion into songs about heartbreak she was too young to have experienced but somehow understood completely. This wasn't just another aspiring singer from the suburbs. This was Amy Jade Winehouse, whose extraordinary vocal talent and uncompromising authenticity would make her one of Britain's greatest soul singers, while her public battles with addiction, toxic relationships, and mental health would ultimately destroy the very gifts that made her legendary. Born on September 14, 1983, into a working-class Jewish family in Enfield, Amy entered a world where music wasn't just entertainment but the soundtrack to daily life. Her father Mitch drove taxis while harboring dreams of jazz stardom, filling their home with the sounds of Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, and Dinah Washington. Her mother Janice worked as a pharmacist but had performed with various bands, understanding both the allure and the dangers of musical ambition. The Winehouse household was chaotic, loving, and saturated with the kind of music that would shape Amy's entire artistic identity. Young Amy's relationship with music began before she could properly speak, humming along to her father's jazz records with perfect pitch and natural rhythm that amazed her family. By age 4, she was already showing signs of the vocal gift that would define her life, singing with an emotional depth that seemed impossible for someone so young. Her childhood was marked by an intuitive understanding of melody and phrasing that couldn't be taught, combined with a rebellious streak that would both fuel her artistry and contribute to her eventual destruction. The divorce of her parents when Amy was 9 created the first major trauma that would influence her songwriting and her relationship with love and abandonment. The separation wasn't bitter, but it left Amy feeling responsible for holding the family together while struggling with her own sense of security and belonging. This early experience of family disruption would later manifest in her desperate need for love combined with her inability to trust that love would last, creating the emotional complexity that made her music so compelling and her personal life so turbulent. Her teenage years at the Brit School for Performing Arts should have been a nurturing environment for her obvious talent, but Amy chafed against formal musical education, preferring to develop her own style rather than conform to institutional expectations. Her teachers recognized her extraordinary ability but worried about her attitude and her resistance to discipline. She was already writing songs that dealt with adult themes of heartbreak, addiction, and emotional pain with a sophistication that suggested either exceptional maturity or troubling life experiences. The formation of her first band at 16 showcased Amy's natural leadership and her uncompromising vision for how music should sound. Even as a teenager, she insisted on creative control and refused to compromise her artistic vision for commercial considerations. Her bandmates later described her as both inspiring and impossible, capable of creating magical musical moments but also prone to unpredictable behavior and emotional outbursts that made collaboration challenging. Her early performances in small North London venues revealed an artist who was already fully formed despite her youth. She commanded stages with the confidence of someone decades older, delivering emotionally devastating performances that left audiences stunned by the contrast between her youthful appearance and her ancient-sounding voice. Club owners and other musicians began talking about this remarkable teenager who sang like she had lived through decades of heartbreak and experience. The demo recordings that eventually landed her a record deal demonstrated Amy's unique ability to blend contemporary songwriting with classic soul and jazz influences in ways that felt both nostalgic and completely modern. Her voice carried the weight and texture of legendary singers like Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan, but her lyrics dealt with contemporary issues of love, drugs, and urban life with brutal honesty that few artists were willing to express so directly. Frank, released in 2003 when Amy was just 20, introduced the world to an artist who defied every expectation about young British singers. The album's blend of jazz, soul, hip-hop, and R&B created a sound that was uniquely Amy's own, while her lyrics revealed someone who wrote about personal experiences with unflinching honesty. Songs like Stronger Than Me and Take the Box showcased her ability to turn personal pain into universal art while maintaining the specificity that made her stories feel authentic rather than manufactured. The critical acclaim that greeted Frank established Amy as a serious artist rather than just another young pop star, but it also introduced her to the pressures and temptations that would eventually consume her. The music industry's attention brought opportunities but also exposure to the drugs, alcohol, and chaotic lifestyle that would prove irresistible to someone already struggling with depression and self-destructive tendencies. Her relationship with Blake Fielder-Civil became both the inspiration for her greatest artistic achievements and the catalyst for her most destructive behaviors. Their on and off romance was characterized by intense passion, mutual addiction to drugs and alcohol, and a codependent dynamic that brought out both the best and worst in Amy's creativity. Blake introduced her to harder drugs while also serving as the muse for many of her most powerful songs about love, betrayal, and addiction. The creation of Back to Black between 2005 and 2006 represented Amy at her artistic peak, channeling her tumultuous relationship with Blake and her growing struggles with addiction into songs that perfectly captured the pain of modern love and the allure of self-destruction. Working with producer Mark Ronson, she created an album that sounded like it could have been recorded in the 1960s while dealing with distinctly contemporary themes of celebrity culture, addiction, and emotional dependency. Rehab, the album's lead single, became an unlikely global anthem while revealing Amy's complicated relationship with getting help for her addiction. The song's defiant chorus and Amy's insistence that she didn't need treatment became ironic as her public struggles with drugs and alcohol intensified. The track's success made Amy internationally famous while also making her addiction a source of public entertainment and media fascination. The global success of Back to Black transformed Amy from cult artist to worldwide phenomenon, but it also intensified the pressures that were already destroying her personal life. The album's themes of heartbreak, addiction, and self-destruction proved prophetic as Amy's real life began to mirror the emotional devastation she sang about so convincingly. Critics and fans celebrated her authenticity without fully understanding that her brutal honesty came from genuine pain rather than artistic performance. Her live performances during this period were either transcendent experiences that showcased her incredible vocal ability or disasters that revealed the extent of her addiction and mental health struggles. Audiences never knew which Amy would appear, the one who could deliver devastating renditions of her songs with power and precision, or the one who was too intoxicated to remember lyrics or stay upright on stage. The paparazzi attention that followed Amy's success created a toxic cycle where her attempts to cope with fame through drugs and alcohol provided more material for tabloid coverage, which increased her stress and drove her toward more destructive behavior. Her distinctive look, the towering beehive hairdo, heavy eyeliner, and numerous tattoos, made her instantly recognizable and impossible to hide from photographers who documented every public appearance, breakdown, and attempt at recovery. Her marriage to Blake Fielder-Civil in 2007 was simultaneously the fulfillment of her romantic dreams and the catalyst for her most serious bout with addiction. Their relationship was characterized by public fights, mutual drug use, and a pattern of breaking up and reconciling that kept both of them in constant emotional turmoil. The marriage provided material for some of her most powerful songs while also creating the instability that made sustained recovery nearly impossible. The Grammy Awards triumph in 2008, where she won 5 awards including Record of the Year and Song of the Year for Rehab, should have been the peak of her career, but Amy was too ill to attend the ceremony in person. Her satellite performance from London was both triumphant and heartbreaking, showcasing her incredible talent while revealing the physical toll that addiction was taking on her voice and appearance. Her attempts at rehabilitation were complicated by the public nature of her struggles and the difficulty of maintaining sobriety while surrounded by enablers, media attention, and the stress of international fame. Multiple stints in treatment facilities were followed by relapses that were documented in excruciating detail by tabloid photographers, creating additional shame and pressure that made recovery even more challenging. The period between 2008 and 2011 saw Amy's talent remain intact even as her personal life spiraled completely out of control. She could still deliver powerful performances when she was healthy enough to take the stage, but these moments became increasingly rare as her addiction progressed and her physical and mental health deteriorated. Friends and family watched helplessly as someone they loved disappeared into addiction despite having access to the best treatment money could buy. Her father Mitch's attempts to help often backfired, as his desire to support her career sometimes conflicted with what was best for her health and sobriety. The complicated family dynamics around Amy's addiction, wanting to help while also enabling her continued access to the lifestyle that was destroying her, reflected the broader challenges faced by families dealing with addiction in the public eye. The musical collaborations during her final years revealed an artist who retained her extraordinary gifts even as addiction ravaged her personal life. Her duets with Tony Bennett and other established artists showed that her voice and musical instincts remained intact, providing glimpses of what she might have achieved if she had been able to overcome her addictions and find stability. Her final performances were tragic reminders of both her incredible talent and the devastating effects of prolonged addiction. The infamous Belgrade concert in June 2011, where she appeared confused and unable to perform, became symbolic of how addiction had stolen her ability to do the thing she loved most. The audience's jeers and disappointed reactions added another layer of humiliation to someone already struggling with shame and self-hatred. Her death on July 23, 2011, from alcohol poisoning at her Camden home shocked the world but didn't surprise those closest to her who had watched her struggle for years. At just 27 years old, Amy joined the tragic 27 club of musicians who died at that age, including Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Kurt Cobain. Her death felt both sudden and inevitable to those who had witnessed her long battle with addiction and mental illness. The investigation into her death revealed the complex factors that contributed to her final relapse, including relationship problems, career pressures, and the underlying mental health issues that made sobriety so difficult to maintain. Her blood alcohol level at the time of death was more than 5 times the legal driving limit, indicating a binge that was likely triggered by emotional distress rather than simple recreational drinking. The posthumous releases and documentaries that followed her death provided insight into both her creative process and her personal struggles, revealing an artist who was painfully aware of her self-destructive tendencies but unable to overcome them despite multiple attempts at treatment. Her unreleased recordings showed continued artistic growth and evolution, making her death feel like an even greater loss to music and culture. The Amy Winehouse Foundation, established by her family to help young people struggling with addiction, represents an attempt to create positive change from tragedy while honoring her memory through practical help for others facing similar struggles. The foundation's work in addiction treatment, education, and support services reflects understanding that Amy's death could have meaning if it helps prevent similar tragedies. Her influence on contemporary music extends far beyond her relatively small catalogue, as countless artists cite her as inspiration for embracing authenticity, emotional honesty, and artistic integrity over commercial considerations. Her approach to blending classic soul and jazz with contemporary songwriting created a template that many artists have followed, though few have matched her unique combination of vocal ability and emotional transparency. The debates about exploitation and responsibility that continue around Amy's story raise important questions about how society treats artists struggling with addiction and mental illness. Her case highlighted the ways that media attention, industry pressures, and public fascination with celebrity dysfunction can contribute to rather than alleviate personal struggles. The biographical films and books about Amy have attempted to capture both her artistic genius and her personal pain, though family disagreements about her representation reveal the ongoing difficulty of telling the complete story of someone whose private struggles became public entertainment. These portrayals struggle to balance respect for her artistry with honest examination of the factors that contributed to her death. Today, Amy Winehouse is remembered as one of Britain's greatest soul singers and a cautionary tale about the intersection of talent, fame, and addiction. Her music continues finding new audiences who connect with her emotional honesty and vocal brilliance, while her story serves as a reminder of the human cost of untreated mental illness and addiction. Regardless of talent, success, or resources, her legacy represents both triumph and tragedy, the triumph of an artist who created timeless music by refusing to compromise her vision, and the tragedy of a young woman who couldn't overcome the personal demons that ultimately consumed her. Amy's story continues resonating because it reflects broader struggles with authenticity, self-acceptance, and the challenge of maintaining humanity in an inhuman industry.
Amy's story reminds us that extraordinary talent doesn't protect against human pain. Her music lives on while her struggles highlight the importance of mental health and addiction support. Subscribe for more music legend stories. Like if Amy's voice moved you. Share how her music touched your life.